What happens when the man you're watching on camera starts running barefoot, bleeding, and doesn't even seem to notice? Watch till the end, because this one's beyond creepy. You think a job in security is boring, right? A little lonely, sure, but nothing to fear. But what if the person you're watching on the surveillance camera starts doing something so disturbing, so bizarre, that you question if you're actually safe? This happened to me on one of those lonely night shifts. A man running on a treadmill, bleeding, and he wasn't even human. It was just another night shift at Edgewater Gym. I was the only one there, just me and the hum of the overhead lights. I've been working nights for over a year, so the quiet doesn't bother me anymore. It's almost peaceful, really. No distractions, but just me and the security cameras. I've always thought of it as boring, but easy money. I sat in the dimly lit security office, half-heartedly flicking through the camera feeds. It was around 1:15 a.m., and most of the gym was empty, except for a few regulars. People who just can't seem to get enough of the treadmill at this hour. But then, something caught my eye. There was a man on the treadmill, James Moreau, I later found out. He was older, maybe in his 40s. His clothes were worn and ragged, and his hair was unkempt, hanging around his face like a mask. He stepped onto the treadmill like it was just another day. But as I watched him, something didn't feel right. This guy wasn't just jogging. He was running, and fast, way faster than anyone would run at this time of night. Barefoot. And then I saw it. His feet were covered in blood. It was dripping onto the treadmill, pooling on the floor below. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was seeing things, but no. It was real. His feet stained with red, moving across the machine like nothing was wrong. I leaned in closer to the monitor, trying to make sense of it. The blood, the speed. It didn't add up. But still, he ran. "Hey, you need to stop," I said through the intercom, trying to get his attention. My voice crackled in the empty gym, but the man didn't even flinch. He kept running, his face expressionless. I stood there for a second, frozen. The only sound was the whir of the treadmill and the drip, drip, drip of his blood onto the floor. I tried again. "Stop! You're bleeding everywhere!" But the man didn't react. Nothing. "Are you there?" he muttered. The words were soft, almost drowned out by the treadmill's hum. But I heard them clearly. His voice, raspy, hollow, like he wasn't even speaking to me. I felt my stomach turn. What the hell does that mean? I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. Something wasn't right, and my gut told me I was way too close to something I shouldn't be. "Hey!" I shouted again, louder this time. "Who the hell are you?" No response. His feet slapped against the treadmill, blood splattering across the machine with each step. His eyes were fixed straight ahead, not blinking, not acknowledging me. It was like he was in a trance. And that's when I realized he wasn't running like someone trying to get fit. He was running as though he was trying to outrun something, but what? I had to get closer. There was no other choice. I had to know what was going on. I grabbed my flashlight and took a few steps toward him. The closer I got, the more I could see. The blood wasn't just dripping, it was pouring. His soles were shredded, the flesh tearing with every step. But he never slowed down. My mind screamed at me to turn around, to run, but I couldn't. I had to see. "Please stop," I begged. But still, he said nothing. Just the steady rhythm of his feet, faster and faster. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the treadmill stopped. It went silent. I froze. What the hell? I looked around, and the gym was empty. There was no sign of the man. No footsteps, no movement. Just the faint smell of blood lingering in the air. I glanced at the cameras. Still nothing. He was gone. Vanished. I checked every feed again, my heart pounding. Was I seeing things? Did I miss something? The man was gone, but the blood remained, stained into the carpet, smeared across the treadmill. I walked back to the office feeling an uneasy pit in my stomach. I had no idea what was happening, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. A few hours passed. The gym was dead silent, the only sounds being the occasional buzz of the fluorescent lights. But then, around 5 a.m., I received a text. It wasn't anything normal, no number attached, just a message that read, "I know you're still there. I see you." I almost dropped my phone. I didn't recognize the number. I didn't know who it was. But I knew one thing. Whoever this was, they knew me. But it didn't stop there. Later that night, I found a handwritten note on my doorstep. It read, "I know what you did. You have 3 days." I don't know what that meant, but it shook me to my core. What did I do? I spent the next few days trying to forget about it, but I couldn't. The message kept echoing in my head. Who the hell was this guy? Why was he doing this to me? I tried to brush it off. It had to be some kind of scam, right? I wasn't giving him a cent, but I didn't realize just how far things would go. A few days later, I was sitting at home, trying to clear my head, when all of a sudden, a loud crash. My window shattered. I dropped to the ground instinctively, thinking someone was shooting at me. But when I looked up, I saw it, a rock, thrown through my window, and I rushed outside to find whoever had done it, but the only thing left was a shadow in the distance. I called the cops, but when they came, there was nothing. No one was around. I knew this wasn't over. I couldn't go back to work, but I couldn't afford to quit either, so I kept my head down, hoping things would calm down. But I knew deep down they never would. The man was still out there, and I had no idea what he wanted or why he was targeting me. All I know is that when he comes back, I'll be ready. Have you ever had someone buy you dinner without even asking for it? Sounds like a deal you can't turn down, right? But what happens when the person who keeps buying you meals knows your name without you ever telling them? I didn't think much of it at first, but after a while, I realized something strange was happening, something I couldn't ignore. It was just another night shift at Big Benny's Burgers. I've been working here for almost a year, and honestly, the routine's pretty simple. You're the only one around after midnight, and it's usually just you and the occasional few customers who can't sleep. Most nights, it's the same faces, same orders, same everything. You get used to the boredom. I was leaning against the counter around 2:30 a.m., staring at the clock. I had no idea what to do with myself anymore. It was one of those quiet nights, the kind where you're just waiting for time to pass, the kind where everything feels like it's in slow motion. And that's when it happened. The drive-through intercom crackled to life, and a voice came through. Nothing unusual except I'd heard this voice before. "And I'll take a double Whopper with cheese, large, and a Coke," the voice said, casual as could be. It was the same order every time, same meal, same drink, the same time of night. This wasn't just some random order anymore. It was becoming routine. I punched the order into the system, and as usual, the car pulled up to the first window. It was just a car, Nothing special. Tinted windows. Nothing too strange about it. I took the money, handed over the receipt, and watched the car drive off, just like it always did. The thing is, this wasn't the first time this had happened. The same thing had occurred the week before, and the week before that. The weird part? The driver never picked up his food. He'd pay at the first window, take his receipt, and just drive off. No questions, no thank you, nothing. And I just went back to whatever I was doing, thinking maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he was coming back for it later. But tonight, it happened again. Same order, same guy, same routine, I thought to myself as I slid the food aside, waiting for the next customer. But it kept bugging me. This wasn't normal. A week later, around the same time, 1:45 a.m., I was working at the drive-thru again. It was dead silent. The parking lot empty. Nothing but the occasional hum of the fridge behind me. Then the same voice came over the intercom. It was the same man. "I'll take a double Whopper with cheese, large, and a Coke." I didn't think much of it at first. Honestly, it just felt like deja vu. But then something hit me. The man had done the same thing, paid for the meal, and then drove off. No food, no word, nothing. But this time, I noticed something I hadn't before. As he handed me the money, I could barely see him through the tinted windows. But this time, I could have sworn there was something familiar about him. Something about the way he held himself, like he was in a hurry, but not really. It didn't make sense. And when he drove off, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. Then a few nights later, it happened again. "I'll take a double Whopper with cheese, large, and a Coke." The same voice, same order, same routine. It was like clockwork. But this time, I didn't just hand over the food. I had to know what was going on. As the man drove up to the first window, something in my gut told me I wasn't just dealing with another oddball customer. There was something about this guy that felt off. I leaned over, slid the food aside, and asked, "You sure you don't want your order?" I was trying to keep it casual, but there was a weird tension in the air, a feeling I couldn't shake. But then he surprised me. He didn't answer my question. Instead, he said, "I hope you've been enjoying those Whoppers, Mr. Foster." My blood ran cold. I didn't wear a name tag. I didn't have anything that said my last name out there. There was no way this guy could know my name. How did he know it? I froze for a second, staring at him through the cracked window. The words sat there, hanging in the air, like some sort of warning. But I didn't have time to react. The man just drove off like nothing had happened. "What the hell?" I whispered to myself as I stared after him. The meal was still sitting on the counter, untouched. The bag was starting to feel heavier than it should have. The rest of the night dragged on, but I couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. It wasn't just about the weird order anymore. It was him, the fact that he knew my name. I didn't get much sleep that night. The next morning, I was walking back to my apartment when I saw it, a handwritten note sitting on my doorstep. "I know what you did. You have 3 days." I stared at it. The ink smeared just slightly, as if it had been written in a hurry. My heart dropped. What the hell did I do? I couldn't stop thinking about it, but I tried to move on. I thought maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone was messing with me. But it didn't stop there. It was a few nights later when he came back again. This time, it wasn't the same order. He didn't even order food. He pulled up to the window, but instead of asking for his usual meal, he gave me an address. "You have 2 days to deliver $10,000 to this location," he said, "or else." The coldness in his voice made my stomach churn. The same man, giving me the same eerie feeling, but now with a demand. He wasn't joking. I wasn't going to give him the money. That's insane. I don't have $10,000. But the idea that he knew where I worked, knew my name, that was what kept me up at night. The following days were filled with constant dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me, following me. I started to feel like I was losing control of my own life. Everywhere I went, I thought I saw him in the crowd, in the parking lot. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next day, another note arrived, same handwriting. "You have 1 day left. You know what to do." I still don't know who this guy is, but something tells me he's not going to stop. And no matter how hard I try to move on, I can't. He knows too much. He's always out there watching, and I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. And I thought I was just getting a free meal every few nights, but now I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Have you ever been warned about danger by someone you didn't even know? Sounds like something out of a horror movie, right? Well, what if a couple stopped you on the road one night, claiming that a bridge had collapsed ahead and gave you directions to avoid it? But when you chose to ignore their warning and kept going, you discovered the terrifying truth about what they said. I didn't think it would go like this, but it did. It was around 2:30 a.m. when I was heading home from a photo shoot in the small town about an hour away. The night was still and the road was empty, just the way I liked it. I was driving down Hollow Creek Road, a secluded stretch of highway, surrounded by thick woods on both sides. I've driven this road dozens of times, but tonight, something felt different. I'd been on this road countless times, so I wasn't worried. The road was familiar, predictable, but as I rounded a bend, I saw something ahead, a couple standing on the side of the road. They were waving their arms, trying to flag me down. I slowed down, unsure of what they were doing out there in the middle of nowhere at this hour. I rolled down my window just enough to hear them, my headlights cutting through the fog. The man spoke first. "There's a bridge ahead," he said, his voice urgent. "It collapsed earlier today. You need to turn around. If you keep going, you'll end up in the river." I stared at them, confused. "What do you mean the bridge collapsed?" I asked, trying to make sense of what they were saying. And the bridge up ahead was sturdy, and I'd crossed it many times before. "It's dangerous," the woman added, her voice shaking. "We almost drove off ourselves. The bridge is gone. Take the detour. It's safer." I didn't know what to think. "Are you sure? That doesn't sound right," I said, feeling skeptical. The bridge had been there for years. I didn't believe them. "It's real. Please don't go that way," the man insisted, pointing down the road. "There's a dirt road about a mile back," the woman said quickly. "It'll take you through the woods back to the main highway, but you have to turn around now." I was about to argue, but I had that strange feeling, the one that tells you to trust your gut. But still, the bridge couldn't have collapsed, could it? I gave them a quick nod, saying, "Thanks for the heads up. Well, but I think I'll be fine." I didn't believe them, but I wasn't about to backtrack now. I rolled up my window and kept driving. The couple stood there watching me drive off. My mind was already back on the road. A few minutes later, I reached the bridge. I slowed as I approached, just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. The area looked the same as always. The bridge was intact, the beams solid, no signs of any collapse or damage. I crossed it slowly, feeling a bit foolish. That was weird, I muttered to myself, shaking my head. Those people must have been mistaken. But as I crossed the bridge and kept driving, a strange sense of unease settled in. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was as if my instincts were screaming at me to pay attention, but I ignored them. I was too focused on getting home. I drove on, but the whole thing kept gnawing at me. I figured I'd just forget about it. Maybe they were mistaken. Maybe they were just some crazy people. Either way, I had more important things to think about. The next day, I couldn't get the whole encounter out of my mind. So I decided to drive back down that same road in the daylight to see for myself if anything had changed. I retraced my steps, hoping to find some sign of what the couple had said. The bridge was still in one piece and everything seemed fine. But when I reached the spot where the couple had stopped me, that's when I saw it. There was a new sign nailed to a tree right at the entrance of the dirt road. I hadn't seen it the night before. It simply read, "Dead End." I stared at it for a few seconds. It had been put up recently. I would have noticed it the night before. I was sure of it. The whole thing made no sense. I walked over to the dirt road, which was narrow and barely wide enough for a single car. Something in me felt like I needed to investigate, like I had to know what was really going on. I stood at the entrance of the road, staring down the path. Something about it made my skin crawl, but I couldn't shake the curiosity. As I stood there, staring down the darkened trail, I suddenly felt like I wasn't alone, like someone or something was watching me. I decided to drive down the path, just to get a better look. As I inched forward, the trees seemed to close in around me, making the air thick with tension. The road twisted and turned, the way ahead uncertain, when I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pulled deeper into something I couldn't understand. But then I heard it, a scream, a woman's scream, coming from deep within the woods. It echoed through the trees, sending a cold shiver down my spine. I slammed my foot on the gas and got the hell out of there. I didn't look back. My hands were shaking as I gripped the steering wheel, the sound of the scream still ringing in my ears. I haven't been back to that part of the road since, but every time I drive through those woods, I can't shake the feeling that something's waiting for me out there. Maybe the couple was right, or maybe it was just a coincidence. Either way, there's something about that road and that scream that I can't forget. So what do you think? Did I just get spooked by some random encounter? Or were the couple's warnings real? Why would they try to warn me? What was that scream in the woods? Have you ever had a feeling that something wasn't quite right while driving down a lonely road? I want to hear your thoughts. Leave your comments below, and if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. You won't want to miss what happens next.